The Waterboy Sports Show. I'm one of the guy over there is Kyle.
Frankie,
Yes, sir. How was your week?
it was good. I mean, we've just gotten through basically the bulk busy period, like I was mentioning last week for work. Other than that, pretty calm week, nothing crazy, and just excited for these playoffs coming up here.
I have a little bit of a story time. It's not really a story, but I was just hanging out, had a pretty chill week. I was in the market for a Nintendo Switch. I keep hearing a lot about those things, so I finally got one. Honestly, it's pretty insane. But in the last episode, I talked about like when I was sick and did like just looking up side hustles. I went down rabbit holes and whatnot. Anyway, I was at a coffee shop with a lady, and I was like researching just like this world of reselling that I just discovered. It's pretty insane. Um, have you ever? I hope she's not listening. Have you ever read an erotic novel, Kyle?
I have not personally. I mean, I watched like the 50 Shades movies and stuff like when they came out.
Right. But like actually reading a book.
I haven't. I know it's usually a big thing with the ladies and stuff for whatever reason.
So I hadn't either, and I was researching the stuff on my laptop, and I was like, what do you to my lady, I was like, what are you doing? She was on her Kindle. She had a Kindle, and I hope she's not listening. Anyway, I was like, let me like, what are you reading? And then she gave it to me. I read like one page, and I was mortified. I was scarred. I was, dare I say, even disgusted. I
They
was
can be
so
intense.
repulsed. I was like, I didn't know what she was reading at first, and it was like, could have been Dr. Seuss for all I know. It was not Dr. Seuss. It was not anything. I don't know. I was just taken aback. I had to just sit down, take a breather, rub my temples for a little bit. It catches you off guard. Catches you off
Yeah,
guard.
yeah. Did she say like why she reads them?
No, I don't think it's a normal thing, but I think this was like she just wanted to see my reaction, honestly. And she got one. She got a reaction out of me. It was in the middle of a coffee shop too. So it's like one of those things. It's like, you're doing
Broad
something
daylight.
wrong. Yeah. You start looking around, like people are like paying attention. Obviously nobody even knows or cares, but I'm still troubled right now. So I'm still shaken up a little bit. I
Wow, is that
immediately
bad?
after that, yeah, I mean, it's like reading it. It's like, it's weird reading it, It's not something you expect. So anyway, after that, I was like, can we go to like GameStop or something? I
Can
want to
we
go look
go
at
back to the
video
bedroom?
games. Nope. I was like, I want to go look at video games. I want to be a little boy again.
You need some innocence in your life
I need
after
some
that.
innocence. So I went to go look at some video games for my Switch, and I had a good day. That was all yesterday. So hopefully she's
Gotcha.
not listening, but I don't think she minds. She really wanted to just see a reaction out of me, and like I said, she got one. I'm still scarred. Anyway, enough lady talk. We got some football we got to cover. Super Wild Card Weekend. We touched up a little bit on it last episode, but I think there's been a lot more that's happened in the past few days that we can talk about. The biggest one, obviously, that everybody's talking about, the biggest game is Cowboys Packers. It was like every other game was just non-existent after that happened. That's all
Yeah.
everybody was talking about.
I mean, we covered it last week, but the big news is that Mike McCarthy
Mhm.
is staying in power.
There was two things that mortified me the past few days. One was that erotic novel. The second thing was when I heard Mike McCarthy was staying.
Well, you know what that means, right? That means that Dak is going.
Do you think Dak is leaving?
Well, if they're not firing the coach, they're firing the quarterback.
Do you think they'd even fire anybody? I'm honestly convinced that this is all just a huge marketing ploy. Jerry Jones knows damn well that he's just riding this PR train. I don't even
Well,
know if he wants to win. Like,
well,
how can
dude,
you?
you know how it would be as mortifying for Cowboy fans as reading that erotic novel to hear
Hmm.
that they're just going to run it back again. They've been doing that for 5 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
They've just
I
been
mean,
running it back.
really, it's been like 28 years basically. Like they ran it back so many times with Jason Garrett and Tony Romo, and I mean, there's just I like. So I have so many people that I talk to that are just Cowboys haters. Like they just hate like the Cowboys live rent free in their minds more than they do in like fans' minds. Like it
It's an
isn't
it's an easy team to hate. It's like if you meet somebody with a punchable face.
exactly, and that's the Cowboys. And I honestly think that they're just riding out this PR train of like just constantly losing. Because I mean, what the haters realize or don't realize, or maybe don't even care about, is that like the more they like all PR is good PR basically. The more they talk about them, the more the Cowboys are just gonna stay America's team. You know, it doesn't matter if they win anymore. It's like they're the most popular team in the world. I honestly truly think that Jerry Jones does not care, and this is a marketing ploy. I don't understand how you can keep Mike McCarthy when Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, even Jim Harbaugh, like they're all on the table, and you're keeping Mike McCarthy. The guy's won one Super Bowl in 17 years, I think. He's had some insane quarterbacks he's coached for, and he's won one Super Bowl.
I mean, to be fair, that's more than a lot of coaches.
It
But
is more than a lot of coaches. But he had Brett
but
Favre, he had Aaron Rodgers, he has Dak Prescott.
you mentioned Belichick. The big thing with him is that he's likely going to the Falcons. He's going for a second interview, I believe.
I
Which
don't
I
get
mean,
that.
we know what that means. I mean,
Yeah, we
it's
do.
it's likely that he's
It's
gonna
like a
be
second date.
in Atlanta, which I don't get as well because the news was saying that I guess his statement was that before all this, he wanted to be with a team that was quote unquote talented but underachieving.
Hmm.
But I mean, Atlanta's kind of like the opposite of
Yeah, they don't have a
talented.
quarterback.
They don't have a quarterback. I mean, they've got Kyle Pitts, they've got Bijan Robinson, they've got those kind of guys, but they don't have a quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what that's
I
going to be
thought,
like.
I mean, I thought whatever team he was going to go to was going to have an established quarterback. I think that was a big thing for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
the
like the
Chargers
attacking
to
for
me were
him.
a no-brainer for him.
Hmm.
Underachieving but talented.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know what goes on in his head.
Yeah, I really don't like the Falcons. This if he goes to the Falcons, it just kind of screams like, okay, this is the end of Bill Belichick's career. Like
Uh,
this is where he rides off into the sunset.
yeah, absolutely. Which at that point, it's like, why didn't you just retire as a Patriot?
Right. It's like Vince Carter going back for his like 22nd season. Like
Yep.
you're not going to win a championship, but just one last like that's the end of your career basically. I don't like it. But speaking of Dak, he's got a contract that requires um, basically an extension and $54 million. I don't I don't see a world. I don't think they have the cap space to sign Dak, Micah, and CD Lamb.
Nah, and they would be fools to let go of any of those guys to prioritize Dak Prescott. So
Yeah. So you think he's gone? You think
absolutely,
Dak is gone?
I
Mm.
I would feel some real like true sympathy for you if they
Mhm.
happen to keep him.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, you just have to feel sorry for your fellow Cowboys fans. No matter how much you hate them, if we keep Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott after this, like that's just emotional damage. And another thing, if Dak leaves, just an absolute dagger to the heart would be if he goes to like the Falcons or something. I don't know, with Bill Belichick. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
I guess, but who really cares where he goes after the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah. But a shocking stat is that the Packers have more playoff wins than the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. You want to talk about absolute embarrassment? Can you imagine erecting a stadium and having another team win more playoff games than you in that stadium?
that's their stadium now. I mean,
It really is.
the Packers can play there or in Green Bay.
That's like southeast Green Bay. Actually,
they
I don't know where Green Bay
they
is. It's
have they
South Green
have
Bay.
it's in Wisconsin, I think, right? Uh,
I don't know.
but
Yeah,
they
it
have
is.
the
She
right.
said.
They have the right. The Cowboys no longer have a home.
No, they don't. They're homeless. The Cowboys are homeless, and
Could
Jerry
you
Jones
imagine if it
has no
was
stadium.
like if the NFL world was like imperialism, where like basically
That'd make it way more fun.
if you have certain amount of wins in that territory, that's yours
You
now.
own it. That would make everything so much more exciting. Is that you have to change all the marketing material, all the colors of AT&T Stadium to be green and yellow. That'd be awesome. But yeah, they, as far as I'm concerned, they do own AT&T Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, that's it for the Cowboys. The 49ers we'll talk about later are going up against the Packers. But also Super Wildcard Weekend, we can touch on the Lions-Rams. Lions pull out a 24-23 victory. It's their first playoff win in 30 years. Apparently, the city of Detroit was about to fall through the earth because of how insane it was, and the people were just absolutely crazed at that game.
Oh man, they just inched that out, and
They
it
did.
came down to, well, what
People were
didn't
crying.
Stafford get kind of injured mid game?
Yeah, dude. Apparently, I mean, I saw the replay. I was watching it live, and I was like, "Oh, that dude is definitely unconscious for like a second." And they, he just waltzed right back in. It's like the NFL is like, "What's your name?" And he was like, "Matthew Stafford." And he was like, "Okay, you can play.
It's
You can get back in there."
it's Stathu
Yeah.
Mafford.
Mm-hmm. Like close
Well,
enough.
that's crazy because like, well, I mean, not actually super crazy because their offense was all passing,
Yeah.
and it has been the whole season. So without him, they had no chance of winning, and they
No,
almost
they
got it
didn't.
done.
They did. They did. Jared Goff went 22 for 27, 277 yards, one touchdown. Again, in these big games, it's not about putting up insane stats. It's about not making mistakes. It's about not turning the ball over. And
Exactly. I mean, that's true playoff football.
yeah,
Which
exactly.
in the preview we'll talk a little bit about that because I have some thoughts on that. But true playoff football, methodical. I mean, that's why game managers are so valuable. You gotta play like chess almost.
Mm-hmm. 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 Sam Laporta, my boy, my tight end, I picked up throughout the entire fantasy football season. He got injured. He had an MCL injury last game, but he came right back and scored a touchdown this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches for 110 yards. Let's not forget that he was snubbed from a Pro Bowl and he was actually upset about it. And then CD Lamb went out there and just laid an egg. And that just goes to show the Pro Bowl means absolutely nothing anymore. I just want that to go on record.
Yeah, absolutely.
To your point, the Rams actually had more yards than the Lions did by 91 yards. However, they ended 3 red zone trips with field goals, and that is not playoff football. That will get you a fat L, and it did. Now, this could be the end for the Rams. I don't know. What do you think? Stafford's going to be 36. Aaron Donald is 33. Cooper Kupp is 30.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I don't think the Rams ever had like a legitimate shot. You know, maybe they did when they first brought Stafford in, but at
mm-hmm.
this point, it's kind of like they're in almost like that weird limbo period, no man's land, where they're kind of good, but they're they're not going to win.
Right.
Um, going back to the Pro Bowl conversation for just a little bit, there was
Mm-hmm.
some beef that I saw on X
Mm-hmm.
where basically Asante Samuel, I mean, we remember him, the
Mm-hmm.
very good corner back in the day. He had called out Sauce Gardner.
Mm.
Basically, he was like, Sauce Gardner, or he was basically like, if you don't have an interception on the season, you shouldn't be in the Pro Bowl. And
That's fair.
basically, well, normally, yes. But basically, the stats behind it all is that quarterbacks specifically don't throw towards Sauce Gardner's way because
Fair. That's fair
because they
too.
know what he's locking down their best receiver on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like I saw an interesting graphic which I actually have pulled up on my phone right now, but it was legendary cornerbacks in their first 2 seasons. It was Sauce
Mm-hmm.
Gardner side by side with Darrell Revis and Richard Sherman in their
Mm-hmm.
first 2 seasons as being a cornerback in the NFL. Sauce Gardner allowed about half the receptions that Darrell Revis allowed in his first
Oh.
2 seasons, and less by 17 receptions than Richard Sherman. on nearly the same amount of targets. Sauce Gardner
Hmm.
has a 50% reception rate. When it's thrown his way, he's allowed for 600 yards versus Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis' 1,200, and
Hmm.
2 touchdowns versus Darrelle Revis and Richard Sherman allowing 6 and 5 touchdowns.
So
So
he
Sauce
deserves
Gardner,
it.
what?
He deserves it.
He does deserve it because he when teams or when quarterbacks are throwing Sauce Gardner's way, they have a 63% or they have a 63 pass rating.
Hmm.
So it's just basically going to show you that a corner, even though the interceptions are nice and he's had those in the past, this year it's about locking down.
Yeah, you can still wreak havoc on a receiver.
You're on an island, you know?
Right. Right.
So that was just interesting. I mean, everybody was kind of like on Sauce Gardner's side. They were
Hmm.
kind of like Asante, you're just a washed up crazy dude. Like,
I want to see people get like I'm not gonna respect the Pro Bowl again until I see dudes actually hit as hard as they can. I don't want like what do they do? Flag football now? I don't know how we feel about that.
yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel like it's cool because like at least they're doing things to kind of mix it up a little bit. That's the type of thing we would want to see in the NBA All-Star game. But also
Hmm.
people don't want to get injured in the Pro Bowl, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're
see,
playing
I
in the
don't.
Super Bowl.
They got it, but they used to back in the day. Like they used to play a Pro Bowl back in the day.
Yeah, they used to. I mean, but at the same time, I can understand why you just can't.
It used to mean more.
As
Things
much as
used
we
to.
want to see it.
I mean, you got the whole season to recover if you do get injured. The whole off season,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, the Lions, to recap that, Lions beat the Rams by 1 point. And then the other big one, I mean, I called the Lions win, but you called the Buccaneers win.
I did. I
32 to
did.
9, they beat the Eagles.
Frankie Davis. I got it.
Baker
Hmm.
Mayfield, the second coming of Johnny Manziel, had
Yeah.
337 yards for 3 TDs,
Hmm.
and they have now won 6 of their last 7 games.
He's becoming what Johnny Manziel was supposed to be. He is living the prophecy. This is the best I think we've ever seen Baker Mayfield play. The Bucks are now 6 for 7 in their last 7 games. They've won. A crazy stat, but not really crazy. This is Baker Mayfield's 4th team in 2 years, but he also has as many playoff wins as Dak. Anytime I get to slide in a little stat that slights the Cowboys right now, I will do it. As far as I'm concerned, you have as many playoff wins as Dak Prescott.
Yeah, true.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, and maybe this is a discussion too about like obviously Tom Brady was like that late round
Hmm.
pick that like turned out to be the best ever,
Hmm.
but Dak was a 4th rounder, and for
Yeah.
what he was drafted as, like he's done pretty damn well.
Oh, of course.
But also at the end of the day, was he really built for that moment? Probably
Well, at
not.
the end of the day, if you're holding out because you want an extra $5 million a year on your contract, what was it like? He was supposed to get 35, but he wanted 40, and he like held out, just didn't sign a contract. Like, I didn't like that at all. I think that was the beginning of the end for him.
Yeah,
If you're squeezing out your owner for like an extra 5 mil when you're already making 35 mil a year, you better deliver, man. You better win a Super Bowl. You better
yeah.
do something.
I mean, and we thought that this would be the Cowboys' best chance because of how well they were playing. But
Yeah,
once upon a time, we thought that the best they ever were when it was the dual threat of Dak
yeah,
and
Zeke.
Zeke.
But they
And
missed it.
I kind of always thought, I was of the opinion that after Zeke's fall off, the
Hmm.
Cowboys
That was
wouldn't have
it.
any chance.
Yeah, yeah. The run game definitely hurt us. We had no run game.
After he got that septum ring, I was like, it's over.
That's over. He's going off the deep end. He's looking like a Ewok from Star Wars. Trey Palmer had 56-yard tutty on a huge play in the third. That kind of like sealed the deal. I think it was 25-9 at that point or something, or 16-9 actually. That pretty much dug the Eagles' grave. Hers was 25 for 35, 1 touchdown, even though he dislocated his middle finger last week. That is extremely impressive. I don't know if you saw the picture of his finger, but it was disgusting. To come back and play throw 250 yards and a tutty. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, but they missed that AJ Brown
They did.
connection there. That
I think he's
I mean,
gone. Is he gone from the Eagles now? Is he
I'm
just
sure
done?
he is. I'm sure he is. AJ Brown, anytime he's on the field, he mandates a double team
Yeah, he does.
from the defense. So that
Yep.
I mean, they just didn't have the talent on the outside there
No,
for
they
Hurts
didn't.
to really have a throwing performance that's worthy of a win.
And as we always see, like with every mobile quarterback ever, knock on wood, not Lamar. Hopefully nothing happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
But as with every mobile quarterback ever, we see eventually a few years into their career, something happens, or they're like, "Oh shoot, maybe I shouldn't be doing somersaults over a linebacker."
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe I shouldn't run the ball.
it's like we see in the NBA sometimes, right? It's like you got a guy like John Morant who's jumping 10 feet in the air every time
Yeah.
he drives to the rim.
Oh, I love watching him dunk the ball though.
There's two types of
Can't do that
people.
forever.
One camp that will say, "Oh, why is the defender standing there trying to block his shot or trying to take a charge when they
Mm-hmm.
know he's jumping up there?" But then the other camp, which I believe is a smarter camp, is
Mm-hmm.
like, "Why is he doing that in the
Why is
first
he doing it in
place?"
the first place? Yeah, if fuck around and find out, right? That's the thing.
Exactly, and the
You
same
want to
goes for
jump over the
mobile
backboard?
quarterbacks. It's like
Yep.
if you think you can just get away with like the basically the number one athlete bodies in the world, pause
Yep.
out there,
Pause.
like you think you can get away with running through like open field without getting hit, and you're not going to slide. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah, that I remember one hit on Tom Brady in particular. You can go find it. It was way back in the day. I mean, his head just got knocked off, and that was the last time you ever saw Tom Brady run. And that was, like I said, that was probably like what 2007 or something. I'm just pulling that out of my butt, but it was way back in the day. It's usually something like that happens, and quarterbacks stop running. I think we're gonna find out that like the knee injury with Jalen Hurts was more significant, or maybe there was something else bothering him. He just wasn't as mobile, and that took a huge like aspect out of the Eagles offense just away. Like the defense just didn't have to worry about him running because he really doesn't run the ball anymore.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, aside from the 4th and 1 tush push where he's
other
basically
than which
he's
they
getting
stopped
help from his
from
teammates to
everybody.
help him run through that
From
1
DeAndre
yard.
Swift.
But
Dude, that when I saw the Buccaneers stop the tush push, I was like, "Oh, that's it. That's the fall. That is it." The secret is you just have to grab the other quarterback's helmet and just try to rip it off. Just rip his helmet off. It's another one of those fuck around and find out plays. Like if you just throw yourself in a pile like that, uh, somebody's
yeah,
gonna try something, and you're not gonna want to do it again.
yeah, the Eagles are kind of. I mean, they were obviously cringe for introducing that play. I
Yeah.
heard something hilarious from a friend of mine who was like, he was like, "Oh yeah, like the Eagles, if they're down by 7 at the end of the game, it's like I know they're just gonna like pull off some stupid shit, like they're gonna they're gonna pull off an 85-yard tush push or something." Like,
That's what it seemed like. They were 10-1 going. I don't know what was more. Okay, so what do you think was more disappointing? The Eagles being 10-1 and getting knocked out to the Buccaneers 32-9, or the Cowboys, provided they weren't 10-1 at all, losing to the Packers 48. In my book, it was 48-16. 32 is BS. That was garbage time.
yeah, I mean, uh, just because of all the stuff that went around, like with the Eagles locker room and the injuries and stuff, I feel
Mhm,
like the Cowboys one is more surprising.
mhm.
But also, like,
I think the Eagles
I
was more disappointing though.
yeah, I mean, but like because the Buccaneers aren't they are a good team, but to me, they're not a contender.
No, and you go against Baker Mayfield, and it's like, okay, we've seen this guy play before. It's not like this guy's gonna pull some renaissance game, out of his butt. Whereas Jordan Love, on the other hand, it's like, oh my god, this guy looks like scientists mixed Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in a test tube, swirled it around, and out came Jordan Love.
Yep.
Like some of the throws he was making off his back foot, it looked like Aaron Rodgers, and he's like 25 or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that
I
mentorship goes a farther way
I
than we
think
actually
I think
think.
it did. I think it did. And that was a game I was really worried about just because the Packers were clicking late. Um, Now to the Buccaneers point, they're clicking late too. They've won 6 of their last 7. So And also, like, yeah, the Eagles may have been more disappointing, but I was more surprised at the Eagles losing than I think the Cowboys losing, because in the back of my head, I just knew bad things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'd called it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
You also have a guy like, Devontae Smith. Like, you have, like, yeah, you don't have AJ Brown, but you also have Devontae Smith, who just
mhm.
continues to shine.
That
He had
vertical
100,
threat, he's
yeah, he can gash defenses. He was 148 yards and 8 receptions. Um, with AJ Brown, man, that would have been a tough receiving court to guard against.
yeah. I mean, other teams have won games with less talent, so
Right. hmm The other big news was that Big Dom was back on the sideline. Unfortunately, that did not help. Um, Hey, how about this though? These are some early advanced stats, so we'll see if they still hold up. I haven't checked them yet lately, but after the game, Eagles cornerbacks allowed for 263 yards. Now, again, this is an advanced stat, so it may have changed slightly since then. But uh, Slay and James Bradbury accounted for 161 yards of that, and also 3 touchdowns,
wow.
which isn't too surprising. Just the way we've seen the Eagles play lately, it looked like you throw anything over the middle, it's wide open. You throw deep, it's wide open. Like the cornerbacks, the secondary for the Eagles just did not look like it used to the first. I mean, even last season, it didn't look like it did last season.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like what the Eagles were trying to do was like what we see a handful of teams try to do
hmm
is like put together a bunch of names.
Yeah, but they don't really gel together.
Right, right. Not like at least what we've seen from the 49ers, for example.
Yes. Another surprising stat: Eagles combined for 41 rushing yards, and that's including Jalen Hurts rushing. Do you think this is the end for? So I brought up Jalen Hurts. I don't know if you remember this, but a long time ago, I think it was last season, maybe. The Eagles were playing the Chiefs, and like Sirianni like flipped somebody off or something, and Jalen Hurts was just looking at him, and like he like he like pulled his arm down. Like he pulled Sirianni's arm down, and Sirianni had this like stupid like just bad boy look on his smile, like just a little gross little smirk on his face, like he just did something bad. He was like a little kid,
Yeah.
and Jalen Hurts is like, dude, what are we doing here? And I pulled up the video and I watched it, and I was like, yeah, I do definitely remember this, and I've never seen a quarterback do that to a coach. I'm sure it's happened before, but when's the last time you've seen a younger quarterback just be like disgusted in the way their coach presented themselves on the field?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like a big part of like being a coach, aside from having exemplary coaching, is the other half of that is like being able to one keep your locker room in check.
Yeah,
So the AJ Brown situation, that
right.
doesn't just fall on whatever conflict he had with whoever, but it falls on the coach when it comes to, making sure that your players are happy and your players are all gelling together.
Right.
And then also being a leader that they can respect. Like any team that we see on Hard Knocks, for example,
hmm
they have coaches who are respected by the players,
Right.
not in like a way in which it's not just like, oh, we don't want to piss coach off. He's scary, but or he's like he's
Right.
gonna fuck us over. But
Right.
like it's like, okay, we have a coach that we can all rally behind, and that's a big part of why we want to win because it's all a common goal. But
I
Sirianni
think
is just about like all those like other antics.
it is antics. And I think on Hard Knocks, like when you go to the Dolphins, you brought them up. I think they do absolutely have something to worry about. Like, this coach is going to fuck me over. Didn't you say last week that like Mike McDaniel stole his running back's girl or something, and that's his wife
Yeah,
now?
I mean
So there's that. If you
I
mess
mean,
up a coverage,
how long has he been coaching the Dolphins for?
what,
Uh,
2 years, I think.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, 2 years.
He was in the
So
legendary coaching class, I think, of the Redskins.
he's still relatively new.
Uh-huh.
Um, maybe he doesn't have the utmost full respect yet,
Yeah.
like when it comes to that. But you talk about the other team that was in on Hard Knocks for the offseason, and this is not just because I'm a Jets fan, but
Nobody
Robert
watched that
Saleh.
season of Hard Knocks.
I watched it. Okay,
Nobody
I
watched
watched it.
it. Okay.
Uh,
I hope it was
no,
cool.
because Aaron Rodgers was on it. Everybody watched it.
Yeah, that's true. It was just
But
disappointing
Robert
season.
Saleh, he's kind of like a younger coach. He's like, cool with the players and stuff. Like, it's like the type of guy that you can rally around.
Yeah, of course.
You need that.
I don't. You can't rally around Sirianni. Like again, like I don't know what this guy has with the Chiefs, but I don't know if you remember that video of him when after they beat the Chiefs, he was walking to the locker room and he was like yelling at Chiefs fan. He was like, "Where y'all at now?" or whatever, and he was just talking trash. And then they, since that game, I think that was like the 10-1 game. Like since that game, they rattled off like 6 losses or something. And hey man, karma's a bitch. But
you can't just be like basically like acting immature.
right,
in that way,
especially as a coach, a head coach.
As a coach, yeah, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, it is. So I would be surprised actually if Sirianni stays with the Eagles fans. Just testing the waters of the Eagles fan base, it seems like they don't really want him either. They might be a little split, but I think for the most part, man, you want to talk about a fan base that doesn't deal with any BS. It's the Eagles. I don't think Sirianni's staying in Philly. I think they're going to bring, especially with all the talent mixing around right now, all the coaching talent.
Yeah, he's gone.
I think so. Dolphins Chiefs. Speaking of Hard Knocks, 26-7. Unfortunately, the last episode of Hard Knocks came out because the Chiefs defeated the Dolphins in negative 30-degree weather. Mahomes is, I don't know if you saw the little memes with Remy, the little mouse from Ratatouille. He was somebody like photoshopped him in Patrick Mahomes' helmet's hole. That was the hardest sentence to say. But anyway, it was a funny meme. His helmet broke. If y'all didn't see that, his helmet, literally a chunk of his helmet just came flying off after a hit because it was so cold and brittle. 15 people in the stands were hospitalized for hypothermia. Of course, Taylor Swift was at the game and she was warm and cozy in her little box suite. Who gives a shit though? She will continue to be the Yoko Ono of the Chiefs. She will be the Jessica Simpson, what she was to the Cowboys, Kim Kardashian to Miles Austin. I will stand by this because I'm still not over drafting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in my fantasy football league just to have that abysmal season from both of them play out. I don't forgive her for that, and I probably never will.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins, they still got a long way to go. Obviously, this is their first real year of being good, like I've said in the past, and they just got still moves to make so that they can really compete.
They do. And it starts with, in my opinion, they have a ton of talent around the team. I don't know if they really need to do much moving around. They had so many injuries, especially to their defensive core. They lost like 3 or 4 linebackers.
Yeah.
It's hard to play a game after that, especially a playoff game.
Yeah.
At Arrowhead.
You gotta give the offense, the defense has to give the offense a breather, and the offense needs to give the defense a breather,
right?
In big games like this. So, when you have Tua, injuries like that, what?
I think it's Tua. I think that's where it starts with.
I don't think he's going to be the scapegoat. I mean, he's young.
Are they winning? Are they winning a Super Bowl with Tua?
Crazier things have happened.
If
the Cowboys could think that Dak was the answer for several years now, then Tua making the playoffs after a high-powered offense season is not going to be the scapegoat here, at least for now.
You just keep twisting that knife in me. You just keep twisting it. I don't want to talk about the Cowboys anymore. I don't. They don't deserve any more airtime on this show. I think the coolest thing out of this game was Andy Reid's mustache just being a block of ice. I don't know if you saw that, but it was just
that was hilarious. That was so funny.
Frozen.
He was just basking in it too. He gave no fucks.
He knew it. He knew he looked hard in that. He looked tough. Harrison Butker would probably get the game ball. He had 4 field goals, which Andy Reid says was like kicking a block of ice, and I don't even want to imagine what it's like kicking a football in negative 30-degree weather. But he did have 4 field goals. Dolphins only finished with 264 yards, and yes, they are on Lions-esque playoff drought watch. They have not won a playoff game since 2000. Rip.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't been a good team till this year, so.
That's fair. They were pretty good last year, but yeah, this year was their breakout year, I think. Again, Travis Kelce had 2 drops, and they were disgusting drops. They were horrible drops. Why? His girl's in the crowd. Why? Because she's toxic. And she ruined my fantasy football season. He had 71 yards for 7 catches. That's commendable. But I think the coolest thing that we're going to get out of this, which we'll preview in a little bit, this leads to Chiefs-Bills, which gave us one of the greatest games probably of all time last year. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. Got anything else on Dolphins-Chiefs?
Well, you said they were good last year. I mean, they were good until Tua almost died. So,
oh God, I shouldn't laugh at that. But yeah, that was very infamous. The back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, Travis Kelce too. Hopefully he's catching the ball. They were really bad drops, and everybody was kind of dropping the ball in that weather. But I don't want to talk anymore about Taylor Swift because it's so annoying. But but there's no reason either why she should just be showed in between every play, even if it's like a Rashee Rice 4-yard catch. It's like, why are we showing Taylor Swift at the end of this play?
Yeah, I know. Obviously, the NFL wants to capture the demographic that they've had such a tough time capturing, which is younger girls and even older girls, maybe 20-something-year-old girls. Obviously, there's a lot of girls that watch the NFL, but I think they saw this as a chance to capture a lot of Swifties that didn't used to watch the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably other ways to go about it, but I guess when the opportunity presents itself. What I was pissed off about was that she was in multiple times it kept cutting to her in Hard Knocks. And I was like, why? Why Hard Knocks? What Swiftie is watching Hard Knocks?
On the Dolphins season.
On the Dolphins. One of the things I love most about Hard Knocks is that it followed the logistics and the processes behind an NFL team and a game that they have to travel to and the equipment managing and all that. And if anybody knows me, the people closest to me know that I am a absolute salute for a good process and a good system. And I love that so much about Hard Knocks, how they showed that.
Oh, and yeah. So, and
Taylor Swift, I was like, what is this? What does this become?
Definitely. But enough about her. Texans, Browns, that last wild card game. CJ Stroud is the youngest quarterback to win a playoff game with 274 yards in that game, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Outclassing a veteran quarterback, washed up as he may be. He had 2 picks, 2 pick sixes.
Yep.
And yeah, D'Amico Ryans is leading that team to a Cinderella story. Might end today, but
you think he gets Coach of the Year?
I think he deserves it.
If they win this game, you think he gets it?
Are votes cast before the playoffs? Or
I don't know, but I don't think they've so I tried to look up the odds and it was weird. I don't know if these are the current odds. I kept looking it up and this is the same odds every website was giving me. D'Amico Ryans is at plus 1,100. Kevin Stefanski is a major favorite at minus 1,000 to win Coach of the Year.
Let me see.
I don't know if those are still the current. Yeah, check it out. I live in Texas. We're still Bible thumping and gambling is not allowed here. So, hey, speaking of which, ESPN bets. I don't know if you've opened up your ESPN app, but they have integrated ESPN bets into the ESPN app now.
Yeah, so, that's a big thing. Cool. It's available in Texas.
What is?
ESPN bet, I think.
Well, we can't bet. I mean, I can look at the odds, but I can't. You can't bet, which is unfortunate.
I think they took off Coach of the Year voting on here. Okay. I can't really find it.
Well, I think if he wins the game, regardless if about the award or not, if they win this game, I don't think any other coach deserves Coach of the Year award in the NFL more than D'Amico Ryans would if they beat the Ravens.
Yeah. Definitely that's true. And I think he deserves it nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what the other one is, Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and that's, I don't know. I guess it's just because the Browns overcame that adversity with
like 4
having
quarterbacks.
Deshaun Watson out, having Nick
Yeah.
Chubb's out,
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, they did go through a lot of injuries. I know the Texans had their fair share too.
but they're a
Obviously,
brand new
Tennessee was
team
out.
as well.
They
So
are.
it's
They're
like,
young. Very new team. Very young team. They do have some bright futures ahead of them. Nico Collins, Noah Brown was pretty non-existent in this game, but Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz. I'm pretty sure the Cowboys are kicking themselves maybe for letting him go,
yeah,
but
he was
they're
great
doing
for the
great.
Cowboys,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised they did let him go.
Yeah.
He's that type of tight end that you always want to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Uh,
it seems like the Texans have like an unlimited number of just these like young underrated receivers who just like go
yeah, they do.
crazy
They
whenever
do.
they get in the game. Like because they've had injuries, they got Tank Dill out, all
Yep.
that. So, but that sets up their matchup versus the Ravens, in which everybody's pretty much expecting that they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I took the Ravens spread for that game. The Texans are a great team, but I don't see it happening. It's just
Oh
me.
wait, I'm stupid. Noah Brown got hurt. That's why
Yeah,
he was
he
not
did. He
existent.
did.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. I guess he's on injury reserve. It doesn't look. Let's see. We'll get you the latest injury update here. Have placed him on injured reserve. Oh, they lost him for the rest of the playoffs.
Well, the big other news with injured reserve is that the Ravens are going to have Mark Andrews back for this game, I believe,
Oh, sheesh.
which sets up a tight end, two-headed monster with Mark Andrews. Oh, apparently he won't actually play versus the Texans, but he'll be ready next week if they do win. Um,
That's huge. Mark
but
Andrews he's good.
but Isaiah Likely is super good too. So they're gonna have a two-headed monster going into that AFC Championship game.
Yeah, if they win today.
If they win, uh, anything's possible. But like we mentioned earlier, I mean, the playoffs, especially these when you get to the second round, is going to be a lot about chess and checkers as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
historically. It just hasn't always worked out in the end where you just have this like run and gun type offense.
Yeah. Obviously, with a veteran like Noah Brown going down, I think one of the maybe X factors to watch is the guy that they just signed. We know how guys, when they get a chance at the NFL, I've mentioned I've never liked putting up a defense in my fantasy football league against a backup quarterback because they're always trying to prove themselves and they have nothing to lose. The Texans just signed Steven Sims from the practice squad.
Who's that?
Since he's a wide receiver, he's supposed to replace Noah Brown. So watch him. He might. I mean, obviously anything is possible, but he could have a big game in a playoff game.
Yeah.
Wanting to prove himself.
I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he balls out because Noah Brown, he was a guy that got his chance like more like mid-season ish, I believe.
Yeah.
And when he got his chance, he balled out too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably easy when you have a guy like CJ Stroud out there. But the Texans, I mean, Texans fans will be out there, not giving up hope. Anything is possible, like we said. And look, if the Texans come out winning this game, they're my new pick to win the Super Bowl
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I would not be surprised if they just completely come out, upset the Ravens, and then the following weeks they beat all the teams who are worse than the Ravens objectively. So
They need to. And here's some juiciness that just came out. It looks like an hour ago.
yeah.
Apparently, CD Lamb's mom. This is allegedly an
Mhm.
alleged report.
Mhm.
She said or tweeted, "Get rid of Dak's ass," and apparently wants wishing Lamb would join the Texans.
There you go, Mama Lamb Chops. That's a good idea. I'm down for that.
We'll have to fact check this, but apparently, yeah. So yeah, Lita Ramirez has weighed in on the struggles of Dallas starting quarterback. This is from Sports Illustrated. Apparently, yeah, she was like, CJ is great. I wish he would go to the Texans.
I'd love that.
I mean, damn, yeah, she's not
Look,
wrong.
Texans fans and Texans as a team, if y'all are listening to this at all, if you're going to beat the Ravens, be prepared to win it all, because I will not stand for them beating the Ravens and knocking them out of the playoffs and then losing to the Bills and the Chiefs and having another Chiefs Super Bowl win, or having the Bills, God forbid, win a fucking Super Bowl.
You hate the Bills, which is great because we all know that Buffalo just does not have a passionate fan base, so that's good for you. I'm just kidding.
Will not stand for that. I will not.
Yeah.
Win it all if you're going to beat the Ravens, please, for the love of God.
So Bills Chiefs, I think whoever wins that, will they get home field advantage if they do go against the Texans?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's tough. Dude. I could be wrong. We've been proven wrong many times on the show. Obviously, we all know the NFL, anybody can win any given week. It's not a 7-game series, it's one game. But the Texans possibly going into Arrowhead for an AFC championship, or going in to Buffalo.
Oh, the weather in Buffalo.
Dude, just be happy you
coming
made it,
from
Texans.
Houston.
And if you win that, oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Y'all are fucked in that weather.
But I mean, like we said, anything can happen. The Texans obviously have CJ Stroud. That guy, as long as he doesn't have an off game, if he has an off game, I think that's GG's. I don't think the Texans, at least right now with their injuries, can really pull out a game where CJ Stroud isn't at his best, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, he has to be playing perfect football for them to make it far.
Yep.
Now, on the other side of things, we got Bills Chiefs.
Yep, Bills Chiefs. This is going to be awesome. This game, I am probably looking forward to more in this round than any other game, simply because of the game, one of the all-time games they gave us last year. I think it went into overtime. So I'm just pulling up some stats from last season's game. Josh Allen, 329 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and had 68 rushing yards. You would think if your quarterback has that stat line, you win. You win 10 out of 10 games, your quarterback has that stat line. But they lost. Only against the Chiefs. Dude, this is what we live for, man. Oh, God. So the Chiefs actually, let's see, on a 17-yard play drive that gave the Bills a lead inside of the 2-minute warning in regulation, Allen picked up 5 third or fourth down conversions. Oh my gosh.
I remember that game like it was yesterday. I was in New York at the time, and obviously there's going to be some Buffalo fans out here in the city too. And I think I was just coming from a date at the time, and I just went into the bar because the bars were packed, like filled to the brim. Like people were watching from the doorway in like 12-degree weather in New York. And everybody was going crazy screaming, and I caught it just during the third quarter. But like you said, all-time classic, and I hope they give us another one. I mean, it's gonna be one of those games that this is now, at this point, it's a rivalry in the modern era. So
it is, and this is one of the games that Mahomes Magic, he became like the term Mahomes Magic really like solidified. Also, Travis Kelce had a 75-yard walk-off touchdown. If Taylor Swift is in the audience, I don't see that happening. He's going to drop the ball. But, man, can you imagine another game coming down to the wire like that? Oh, God. And just cold football weather.
That's what we sign up for in playoff football, for sure.
Yep. That was one of the greatest games of all time. I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, the Chiefs haven't been looking like they have been in the past. Neither have the Bills, but the Bills have been coming alive late, and they look like a tough team. No, apparently nobody can tackle Josh Allen in the open field. That
It's
guy's
so
just like a
stupid.
400-pound, like the guy runs like 10 miles an hour, but he's like 400 pounds.
I told someone this. It's like if you pictured like a classic like lacrosse dude who went out on the football field and tried to be Lamar Jackson.
Yep. That's exactly what it
It's
looks
just
like.
so cringe to watch, but it's also kind of weird like how he's
How
doing
it
it.
works. I
But
know.
both of these teams, they like the Bills, they're both under par from what they usually are, but the Bills, they're coming alive late like you said, and I think it's also going to be a big test of coaching versus coaching as well, because
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid, he's shown that he can out coach the Bills,
Yeah.
in the past. So is he going to be able to do it again?
So that's going to be like an offensive-minded coach against a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, for sure.
Sean McDermott, I think he was defensive coordinator before. He's definitely a defensive-minded coach. But yeah, it's going to be definitely just a classic game, I think, from all perspectives, including the coach.
Let's see. It's being played. Is it an Arrowhead?
It is actually in Buffalo, I think.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's in Buffalo.
interesting. So that the Bills are going to try to get into their heads,
Mm-hmm.
and they're that's what they are. They're kind of like dogs. They're
Mm-hmm.
just going to try and dog them. This is going to be a test of greatness because the Chiefs are going to have to overcome that adversity at the end of the day.
Yeah. So let me think. Did Andy Reid and Sean McDermott coach together when they were both with the Eagles? He was a defensive coordinator for the Eagles from 2009 to 2010. So yeah. So Sean McDermott was definitely Andy Reid's defensive coordinator, if I have my dates correct. I have to look this up. I have to fact check it. But I'm pretty sure if I got the dates right, they did coach together. Sean McDermott later went on to the Carolina Panthers.
Then a classic teacher versus student, type story as well.
Anakin Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be a good game, though. I'm pumped. Packers 49ers. What's your prediction here?
I think this was the toughest one that we had to predict last week.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the 49ers, but it's by a hair. And it will require Jordan Love to be doing Jordan Love things, and then it will require a Brock Purdy meltdown.
Yes. Aaron Jones is going to have a huge game, too.
Which is extremely possible. It's very possible that Brock Purdy has a meltdown. But at the end of the day, like you said, Aaron Jones is also a key aside from Jordan Love because he's going to have to step up against that front seven, which is like probably the best front seven in the NFL.
So we're going to watch two legendary running backs go at it. I guess three.
One is a little bit more in his prime than the other, but
that's for sure. But the way Aaron Jones played against the Cowboys, provided he always dices our shit up, but it's still going to be I can see a game where the 49ers blow out the Packers. I can also see a game where the Packers beat the 49ers in a close game.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think they're going to blow out the 49ers, but I think they have a chance to win, but it's going to be tight.
That running back situation in Green Bay is interesting because you have Aaron Jones and you have AJ Dillon, who they're both like kind of considered more of like, I guess you could say like power backs, like kind of methodical, like they will get you some good yardage and make it all manageable and everything. But the 49ers front seven is absolutely crazy. So
yeah. So what's your prediction? You're saying 49ers?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go, just to shake things up, I'm going to go Packers by a field goal. I don't remember I don't remember what we picked last week, but
We picked the
I
49ers, but
changed my mind.
the but yeah, we've got two super exciting games. Though that game and the Texans versus Baltimore is happening at 4:30 Eastern
Mhm.
time, and Green Bay versus 49ers at 8:15 Eastern time. So it's a big day.
Yeah.
Saturday of all days too is where we have our most exciting games. You know, you could see
Yeah.
obviously nobody tomorrow is probably going to be watching the Buccaneers and the Lions. It'll be like that type of thing where it's like you're still having your little early
Like
afternoon
it's
coffee
on.
and it's
Yeah,
on.
it's
But
on. I'll watch it. And then I'll just I'll just be happy for whoever wins. You know, it's one of those like who was it like Rob Lowe that was wearing an NFL hat to a game you went to? Like that'll be me during the Bucks Lions. I'll put on my NFL hat and just hope everybody has fun.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But
It'd
you
be,
know,
obviously if you live in Detroit, it's a completely different like you're
oh
looking for a
man,
Cinderella run here.
oh man, Michigan fans out there.
Yeah.
I happen to know a few of them, and they're ecstatic. They're over the moon.
They're having a good
Um,
football year in general.
no, yeah, for sure. Lions have the home field advantage there. They're playing in Detroit. From what I hear, it's a relatively tough stadium to play in. Like with
Detroit?
all, yeah, with all the people that
Yeah.
show out, the atmosphere and everything. Um,
I think just the fact that they're in the playoffs right now, the atmosphere is going to be insane.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. My pick is going to be the Lions.
I'm going to go Bucks. I don't want to bet against Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to ball out again. The Lions, I don't know if they have like a high-powered enough offense. Like I don't see. It's entirely possible. I don't see Jared Goff throwing 400 yards against the Bucks.
Well, to me, it's not super much about like how he's gonna like put up stats and like put up
Mm-hmm.
those cushy things. It's gonna be about how many mistakes he makes. I feel like
Right, right,
because
right.
Jared Goff has been his performances this year have been absolutely like inconsistent up and down. Like
Mm-hmm.
he can have a great game, but also at the end of the day, he can also throw for 2 to 3 interceptions. So
Yeah, that sounds like Brock Purdy, honestly. Baker Mayfield, I see him throwing for like another 300 plus yard game, probably without any interceptions.
well,
Maybe one.
don't go that far
Yes,
yet because the
I'm going that
Rams
far.
were the pinnacle of passing
314
off.
yards. 314 yards. Lock it in. Bet on ESPN bets. Baker Mayfield is going to
Look,
throw for 314 yards on the
I
dot.
think if they can shut down Matt Stafford to a relative degree, they can do it to Baker.
If they can shut down Matthew, yes, I do agree with that. I do agree. How is the Bucks offensive line? Are they anything to write home about, or are they just kind of whatever?
Let me look.
I haven't heard much about them, so I would assume that they're just kind of whatever.
So I have it pulled up right now. They've got at the O line.
How about injuries?
No, yeah, that offensive line is nothing to write home about. Honestly,
Mm,
it's kind of this is kind of stupid to say it like this, but like it's a bunch of no names that I don't really recognize.
yeah.
Which on the offensive line, without so much keeping track of too many stats, it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
say. Um, Injuries, I have that pulled up too. They have Shaquille Barrett, the linebacker, questionable. He returned to
Mm-hmm.
practice Friday, but he's still questionable for the game. He probably will play. Chase Edmonds, the backup running back, uh, returned to practice Friday, but he's questionable.
Mm-hmm.
They have a center who's been on injured reserve since August, but I guess it doesn't really matter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing super notable.
I see. I'm looking and seeing. I think a key to this game will be. I think it'll be. Man, like we've already said it before, and it sounds super cliche, but like you mentioned, it's going to come down to who makes more mistakes. Is Baker Mayfield going to throw 2 interceptions, or is Jared Goff going to just lay an egg this game?
Yeah,
That's
and
really what it's going to come down to, I
it's
think.
worth noting that the Bucks secondary isn't like elite. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to rely on the front seven to make Jared Goff uncomfortable and force those mistakes.
Yeah.
Because the secondary isn't going to do it on their own.
Right. And they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. probably will have a big game. If I had to bet on it, if
Yeah.
I was a betting man, I would say he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I also thought the same thing about CeeDee Lamb, so take that with a grain of salt. Who are you pick? Who did you already pick? You picked
Yeah, I
Lions,
picked the
right?
Lions.
Yeah,
It's going to be
okay.
gritty, but I'm going to go with the
I'm gonna
Lions.
stay with the Bucks. I'm gonna stay with the Bucks, and yeah, this is not gonna be a pretty game. You may be, I don't know, just cleaning the dishes or something, and be like, "Oh, this game's on. Sure, I'll turn it on."
Mm-hmm.
So today we have, what were the times again? Today we have Texans Ravens. I think that's in a few hours.
Yep.
And then we have Packers 49ers today.
Yep. It's going to be exciting. Or at least I hope that night game is exciting.
Yeah, I think so too.
Prime
49ers.
time. I think we're going to have a good game.
I want to know how the Texans fans feel. I want to know how the people from Houston are like feeling going up to this game.
Well, I'm sure they're feeling great. There's a lot of people that we know that are Texans fans, and they're acting kind of delusional, honestly.
Yeah, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, we beat Old Man Joe. We're gonna win the Super Bowl.
They don't know how to handle it, but that's okay. That's the fun part. That's what makes this fun.
There could not be a more opposite quarterback from Joe Flacco than Lamar Jackson. Tell you what,
absolutely true.
And I feel like this is to me, and I hope I'm wrong, but this is going to be like an Oregon Liberty type situation to where they have no idea what
there's
is
levels to this shit, as one of our friends Zeke says.
Yeah, there's levels to this shit for sure.
God, I want the Texans to win. I really do. Obviously, who doesn't want the underdog to win?
I don't.
You don't want the Texans to win?
I want to see Lamar win. The Texans, they can have their turn next year.
True.
Or in the coming 10 years, they can have their next turn because they've got such a young team.
That's true.
But I want to see Lamar get one. I want to see him, shut the doubters up about dual threat quarterbacks.
Yeah, fair enough. I would, to your point, would you rather see Texans Bills or Texans Chiefs, or would you rather see Ravens Bills or Ravens Chiefs?
I'd rather see Ravens Chiefs. I think that'll be the most exciting game. Yes. If the Texans happen to win, I would rather them play the Chiefs.
I think the Chiefs would make a Super Bowl again.
I think so too. And I think that it's important that the Chiefs win because I don't want to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. And that's just me, though.
Yeah. After you said that a couple episodes ago, when I was watching Josh Allen just run like a freaking elephant down the middle of the field, I was like, what am I watching here? And the defenders that tried to tackle him just forgot how to tackle. Either that or they're so scared of getting fined and penalized
it's the type of thing where
they don't tackle quarterbacks.
It's the type of thing where it's like he looks like he's not supposed to be good. Like
it looks like he's falling down.
Yeah, it looks so like
while he's falling down.
It looks like the most unathletic
he's just a thick boy
showcase that I've seen. He's a thick boy.
He's a thick boy. He's like 3 AU.
Yeah. If I had chub around the edges for sure.
If he had some chub, that would be you. He'd be Josh Allen. Now, like I said, dude, I think it's just a matter of like linebackers and safeties and corners like running up to Josh Allen and be like, oh, this is a franchise guy. If I hit him really hard, I'm going to get ejected or suspended for the first half of the next game. Or, so I just don't tackle as hard. And then he ends up running for an extra 30 yards after contact. I hate that. I can't stand that. Hit the guy. Just tackle them. Quarterbacks, I get you have to protect the quarterback, especially when they're in the pocket or like when they're scrambling out of the pocket. But when they're in the open field and they decide not to slide, I don't see Josh Allen slide very much.
Yeah, I've always wondered about like the play recognition factor there because it's like he's not exceptionally speedy, agile, etc. Like his lateral quickness is not there. He looks unathletic, uncoordinated when he's doing it. But when players see that happening, like how do they not just go straight to him and just knock his ass out?
I don't know. Well, again, I think it just comes down to like the NFL potentially like finding them or like kicking, like, getting called for targeting or an
Yeah,
extra
that's a
15
possibility.
yards. Like the amount of times I've seen quarterbacks. I don't even want to get started on this, but we all know quarterbacks are very well protected. Except ironically, like when they're scrambling out of the pocket, I feel like that's a time when they're not very well protected.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
and what comes to mind is like Tua, those
Yeah.
hits on Tua,
Yeah,
or
for
like
sure.
Matthew Stafford, even last week. But one thing we don't see too much, which I would like to see. So you have a very mobile quarterback, Lamar Jackson, against a CJ Stroud that isn't necessarily known for like running. I can pull up his rushing yards, but Zeke might be right, man. There could be levels to this.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see it in action.
I'm curious how many rushing yards CJ Stroud has this season. He's accurate though, and he makes good decisions in the pocket. I'll give him that, which is not something you normally see from a rookie. I can't find his stats. Oh well, I'm pumped. What are you gonna do for the next few hours until this game starts?
I actually have to hop on work for like 15
Boo!
minutes.
Rip,
I
dude.
hate to say it, and then I don't know, might play some Fortnite, and I don't know.
Maybe we should get a little gaming stream set up for our
Yeah,
fans.
yeah.
I don't really play Fortnite though anymore. How is it? It was cool when they brought back the old map.
I love it right now, but that's just because I'm like an enthusiast, and like it's crazy because like I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get into it too much, but like
Get into it,
I
baby.
feel like I'm like the
Tell
best I've
me.
ever been. It's like
Oh shit. You're like
it's
Lamar right now? You're in
I
your best. You're in your Duffy?
I'm just really enjoying everything, and like I'm really enjoying fighting a lot right now, and it's like, oh, I've been having so much fun.
Cranking boxes on some 12-year-old chubby cheek kids.
Yep.
Nice. I don't know why it's so hard for me to find CJ Stroud's rushing stats. Maybe that's for a reason because he's just not rushing so much. There it is. 39 attempts, 167 yards rushing for the season. That's not many. There's not many at all.
Yeah.
I give it
See
to
how
him
he has
though.
to improvise and stuff because like this Ravens D is tough.
I give it to him. Like I pause. I don't like really when quarterbacks run too much because eventually, when they run too hard, like I said, they eventually like something happens. They get hit. They get concussed. Something happens, and they're like, "Whoa, I don't really want to run straight into TJ Watt again. Let me just throw it out of bounds."
Yeah.
And for that, their careers definitely are a little bit longer, I think. So I like that for CJ Stroud. He's got a good game. He just has to play his game. He has to have a good game. He can't give the ball away. And the defense, if they can get another pick six or a couple picks like they did last week, we got ourselves a game. But again, you're going against Lamar Jackson as opposed to Joe Flacco. So
completely different game plan.
Completely different game. But anyway, you got anything else?
No. Just make sure everybody, when you listen to this, if you're listening to this, make sure you tap in with us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, see our content on Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you might get your content. We'll be there.
We'll be there. And we'll be talking about college football again pretty soon. But now that the playoffs are kind of getting hot and heavy, we're going to talk about the playoffs.
Excited for that.
We're going to talk about how UTSA landed a Bama transfer. It was pretty cool.
Oh, man, that's exciting.
One of the future episodes.
But yeah, with that, everybody, we are out.
We're out. See ya.